How's everyone doing? I hope you're doing well this evening and staying warm. I don't know where you are, but where I am, it's cold. When I last checked the temperature, I think it was 6 degrees outdoors with a wind chill factor that was below zero, well below zero. So it's cold. So hopefully everyone is staying warm and taking care of yourself. So let's get started. I imagine that you've met someone amazing and the chemistry is electric and you're already picturing cozy nights together. But there's this little voice in the back of your head that you can't seem to ignore. And it's asking, am I their soulmate or am I just a placeholder for the season? We're in cuffing season right now. And today, we're pulling back the curtain on the psychological traps that might mean your new romance has an expiration date. So let's figure out if your partner will still be calling when the snow melts. It happens every year, right? The days get shorter, the air gets colder, and suddenly everyone who was living their best single life in the summer is now scrambling to find a partner. Welcome to cuffing season. It's that time between late fall and early spring when people look for short term relationships just to get through the chilly, dark months. But here's the cold truth. A lot of those relationships are built on convenience and not real connection, which means they're practically designed to fail. Come spring, somebody's going to get left with a broken heart and wondering what in the world happened. What happened? I thought we were good. I was feeling him and he was feeling me. I thought we may have even been heading to the altar, right? This is cuffing season. So today we're not just going to talk about the problem, we're going to get into the psychology behind it and give you some clear cut signs that you may be in a temporary cuffing relationship, and then tell you exactly what you can do about it. So, why do we cuff? What is this almost primal urge to pair up the second the temperature drops? And it's not just in your head. There's some real psychology and even biology that's going on here. First, let's talk about our environment. Less daylight in the winter can mess with our brain chemistry. It leads to lower serotonin levels, our feel good chemical. We talked about that in my last video on cuffing. Well, that dip in serotonin can make us feel lonely and bring on the case of the winter blues. In my world of therapy, we call it seasonal depression. But even if you don't experience seasonal depression, you do experience a drop in your serotonin level. Why? Because less sunlight means less vitamin D. So that means your body takes a hit, right? Well, it's in that vulnerable state that finding a partner can feel like a much better coping strategy than just hiding under a blanket. Like I did I didn't hide, but like I did last night, right? It was cold outdoors, everything had shut down, or just about everything had shut down, and the roads were bad, it was snowing, and I didn't want to go anywhere. A friend of mine was trying to get me over to her place. I didn't want to be out in the weather. I went and found me some thick fuzzy footies and a big blanket to wrap up in. I popped some popcorn and made me some hot cocoa and wrapped up in my recliner and turned on Netflix and binge watched until the wee hours of the morning, right? I was good. So that's what we do when we know that we're going to get into those emotional lows. We don't have to just let it take us there, right? We can be responsible for where we are. There's a scripture in the Bible, and you all know that I subscribe to Christianity. So there's this scripture that says, as a person thinks in their heart, so are they, which means we can choose what we want to ruminate on. If we think about depression, or we think about loneliness, or we think about sadness, or things that make us sad, it's going to automatically take us into that low place. But if we choose to think about happiness and joyous occasions and things that make us smile and things that feel pleasant to us, it automatically gives us a boost. So we can make that decision even when the weather is like it is, and even when you may not have anyone to snuggle up with. It's a choice. But it's in that vulnerable state that finding a partner will give us that natural mood boost sometimes that we're looking for. So we have to do something about that if that partner is not there. On the biological side, there's been some studies that have shown that men's testosterone levels get a boost around fall, which might contribute to an increased drive to partner up. But you want to know what the biggest driver is here? And it's simple. It's the fear of being lonely. The holiday season is packed with images of happy couples at parties and New Year's kisses and Valentine's dinners. So the social pressure is real. And showing up to another family gathering means facing those dreaded questions. So are you seeing anyone? Or what happened with, oh boy, right? That fear can seriously cloud our judgment and push us into relationships with people who are really just kind of there. They're available and convenient, but not necessarily a good match. And we end up making decisions based on fear. And those almost never ever lead to healthy relationships. This is how we end up in hibernation relationships. It's a romance that exists only in a cozy, isolated bubble. Think of movie marathons, ordering takeout, staying indoors, listening to music, maybe playing video games. The problem is that that bubble creates a false sense of intimacy. The whole thing is held up by the artificial setting of winter and not by a genuine connection that can actually survive in the real world. So, how can you tell if you're building something real or just in a temporary winter setup? This evening, I want to give you 5 big signs that your new romance might just melt away with the frost. Sign number 1, all your plans are short term. This is actually a huge red flag, and that's why I put it first. Your partner was all in for that New Year's party that just happened recently, or that Christmas gathering that just happened a month or so ago. Maybe they're even all in on some weekend plans. But the second you mention anything past February, they panic. You may bring up a concert that's going to happen in May or a beach trip in July, and suddenly they change the subject, or they give you this vague, non committal answer like, it's way too soon to think about that. Come on now. You know that a partner who sees a future with you will want to lock you down and make long term plans, right? Because that's their way of saying that I want you around for a while. If they refuse to talk about the future, it's probably because in their mind, there isn't one. And that's hard sometimes for us to conceive. But people truly connect with us just for some of these temporary reasons. But we have to be smarter than that. Sign number 2, your relationship exists in a bubble. Take a second and think about your dates. Do they pretty much all involve staying in, ordering food, binge watching a new series, enjoying some good music? This is the classic hibernation setup. You've got someone to be cozy with in your winter bubble, but you also have this nagging suspicion that they're not the person that you want to be out and about with in the summer. A relationship that's built only on the comfort of having a warm body next to you is missing the emotional glue that it needs to last. Because once the weather warms up and the world reopens and there's barbecues and backyard parties, the bubble is going to pop. And then you might realize you're not actually that compatible. So if you never leave the house, you're not building a life together. You're just sharing a hibernation den, right? Sign number 3. The relationship rushed in, but now the intensity is fading. Cuffing season relationships often go from 0 to 60. A cuffer moves with a sense of urgency because they want to lock things down fast. That first phase can feel a lot like love bombing, right? They're super attentive. Um, they love everything you do. None of your mistakes, none of your faults, none of that stuff bothers them. It almost feels like it's too good to be true. Maybe after just a few dates, they're talking about spending the holidays with your family. That's not because they've fallen for you. That's a strategic move. They're trying to secure a partner for the season. But then once the main holiday, the couple holidays are over, like Valentine's Day, you might notice that their interest starts to drop off. The texts become less frequent and they seem more distant. The energy just seems gone. That's because, from their point of view, the relationship has served its purpose. Sign number 4. You haven't met their inner circle. Yes, it's cold outdoors, but winter is still full of social events. Whether it's family holiday parties or family get togethers, events are still happening. Um, Football games, right? It's still happening. But if your partner is always talking about their friends and family, but never actually invite you to meet them, that's a problem. Keeping you separate from the other important parts of their life is a way of signaling that you're not a serious long term player. Because when someone is genuinely excited to be with you, they want to show you off and weave you into their life. But if they're avoiding introductions, it suggests that they don't see this relationship going anywhere. Sign number 5, emotional intimacy is off the table. Sure, your conversations are fun and they're light, but they never go deep. You talk about movies or work or what somebody had on or what to order for dinner, but you never really talk about the deep stuff. You don't talk about your values. They don't ask about what your dreams are or what are your fears or how can they jump in there and help alleviate some of the difficulties you're having. Mm-mm. They don't even talk about theirs. A temporary partner will keep things on the surface to avoid the real emotional bond. They're all about physical closeness, like cuddling and intimacy, because that's easier than doing the real work of building emotional depth. Yes, physical touch feels great. I'd be the first to admit it. It feels wonderful, especially when you're lonely. But physical intimacy alone cannot carry a relationship. Without that emotional foundation, there's nothing to hold you together once the seasonal need for a warm body disappears. So, what do? Do you defrost or melt away? If you're nodding along to these signs, you might be feeling a little bit of dread right now, but don't. And don't panic because knowing is half the battle. Now that you see what's going on, you can decide what to do next. So I want to give you 4 steps that you can take. Step number 1, have the conversation now. The most important thing you can do is to have a direct conversation about what you both want. It's time to stop guessing and just ask. You have a right to know. You're in the relationship too. My suggestion is that you use clear I statements so that you can explain where you're at. So you'd say something like, I'm looking for something that can turn into a long term relationship. And I need to know if you and I are on the same page. Now, this is not about giving them an ultimatum, right? Because nobody likes that. You can't approach it with, if you don't do this, and I'm going to do such and such, because that comes across as a challenge. And what do we do when people challenge us like that? A lot of times, it doesn't make us give in to what they want. It make us buck up and rise to the challenge. So you don't want to give an ultimatum. But what you do want to do is to save yourself from future heartbreak. So you're just trying to clear the air. You do have a right to do that. And if they get weird just because you're mentioning commitment or they can't give you a straight answer, that's actually your answer. Okay? Step number two, break out of the hibernation bubble. It's the only way to know if your connection is legit. Test it in the real world. Start planning dates to get the two of you out of the house. Go to a museum, try a new restaurant, take them to church, whatever. Just do something to get the two of you out of the house. Go hang out with some friends. This way, you can see if you two vibe when you're not just chilling on the couch. Do you still have chemistry? Do you actually enjoy their company when you're in a social setting? They could have some habits that you absolutely abhor when you're in social settings, but you won't know that if you don't get them out of the house. You need to figure out if this is a person that you still want to hang out with in July. Forget them making that decision. You make the decision. Because a relationship worth keeping should work in every season and not just one. Step number three, invest in yourself and embrace being single. If you realize this situation is not what you want, it's perfectly okay to walk away. It's also okay to be single, even during cuffing season. So instead of jumping into a relationship just because you're lonely, this time focus on yourself, right? Reconnect with some of your friends, start a new hobby, or kill it at work. Get involved in a project and just go all in. Because the more you build a life that you love on your own, the less likely you'll be to make decisions out of fear. Getting to know yourself and your own patterns is the best way to avoid falling into the same trap next winter. Step number four, recognize your role. So finally, it's time for some real honesty. Is it possible that you're the one doing the cuffing? If you know that you're not ready for a serious commitment and you're really just looking for some company to get through the winter, you need to be upfront about it. It's not fair to lead someone on, even if you say you didn't mean to. Being transparent about your intentions from the beginning is the kindest and most respectful thing that you can do. And you can still enjoy someone's company without the pressure of a long term commitment, as long as everyone knows what the real deal is. You tell them you're just looking for something temporary, you just want a friend, but you kind of want that closeness or that intimacy, and they're good with that, then you're good. But just let people know up front. That's what you'd want, right? Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever been cuffed? Or have you been the one doing the cuffing? What are some other red flags that scream, this is only temporary, this is only temporary, this might be a game, this is not real, this is not leading anywhere? Because I know that I did not exhaust all the red flags That was not my intention. So share your stories and your advice in the comments below. Your experience might just help someone else get through this tricky season. And if you found this helpful, make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification so you'll get more advice on building healthier relationships. And for the record, relationships that start during cuffing season are not all doomed. A winter romance absolutely can bloom into something that lasts, but only if it's built on a foundation of honesty, shared values, and genuine connections. That goes beyond just wanting someone to keep you warm. That takes self awareness and the guts to get through those tough conversations. A real partnership should be able to handle all of the seasons. So, as the days get colder, remember to date with intention. Know your worth and never, ever settle for being someone's seasonal convenience. So hold that thought until you're ready for more. And in the meantime, let's heal on purpose.